And let's start with one which we have never covered before, yeah, ache for something or ache for somebody. And I'll remind you of one that we have done before, which is hanker after. But please do join on my website if you'd like to join this course. It's $9.99 for lifetime membership, yeah, and it will always be $9.99 from my website. Okay, so ache for somebody or ache for something. It means exactly the same as long for somebody or long for something, yearn for somebody, yearn for something. It means you really, really, really want something, or you really, really, really want somebody. Yeah, it can be somebody or something. Now with hanker after, you usually see it with somebody, I think. This one's rarer, hanker after somebody's attention, you could say. Yeah, he hankered after her attention. But I must admit, these are much more common. Ache for, long for, and yearn for are much more common than hanker after. But they all mean really want something. You know, be dying to, you know, that's why we say ache. You know, it's painful when you really want something, but you haven't got it yet. And so you're aching for something, you're longing for something, you're yearning for something, all the same. Okay, if you act on a complaint, you respond to the complaint. If you act on the findings in the report, you respond to, you act because of those findings, yeah? Just like you act because there's been a complaint and so you might need to change something to improve your business, something like that, yeah? And so when you act on something, you respond to information. You act because of the content of that information. So if the police act on a tip-off, remember a tip-off is where they receive information from the public about a crime. So if the police act on a tip-off, they probably arrest somebody, and probably the person who was in the tip-off, yeah, the person who was named as the suspect in the tip-off. So the police can act on a tip-off. The police can arrest someone when they're acting on information they've received from a witness. Yeah, you can act on your friend's advice, which just means follow your friend's advice. You act in response to that advice. So this act on means respond to information by acting, you know, according to that information. Yeah, I mean, the information is useful. It's interesting in some kind of way, and you want to act on it because, you know, it's good advice, or it's a tip-off for the police, so it's very useful. So yeah, act in response to information, basically, act on. You do occasionally see it in medicine, but I don't think that this is anywhere near as important. When you say something like, I don't know, this drug acts on the white blood cells, or I don't know, something like that. It's a biological term then, when one biological entity, like usually a pharmaceutical product, acts on something else. Or maybe this protein acts on this enzyme. I must admit, I'm not a biologist, as you might have guessed, and I'm not very into medicine, as you might have guessed. So act out now is very, very different from act on, very different. If you act something out, you're usually acting out your anger, or you're acting out your emotions, or you're acting out your desires, especially desires. And, you know, here's a sentence that I came up with. This is where I usually see act out. It's usually in psychology and psychoanalysis. And psychologists say, psychoanalysts say, that we act out our hidden desires in our dreams and in our unconscious behaviour. Yeah, and so the idea here is that we're actually performing certain actions because we have these desires that we're unaware of. Yeah, these are unconscious desires, these are hidden desires, but we still see them appear in things like body language, you know, in simple gestures and movements, and also in our dreams. And so we act out these hidden desires in dreams, in our unconscious behaviour. But you could say, yeah, the kids act out their anger when they play sport. You could. Although I wouldn't, I must admit. I normally see it used in the psychoanalytical sense of acting out desires. You can say they acted out the play on stage. Nothing wrong with that, yeah? They acted out the play on stage. And so you can see it used in performances as well, in